Well, a papal press conference is a little bit different. Essentially, it's an audience where the Pope comes on stage in a smaller chapel inside the Vatican walls and talks to the media. His reflections, really. It was short. It was filled with humor. It was a rare opportunity to see the Pope a little closer up than, from the balcony here or as a small figure on the altar at St. Peter's. So in that way, it was quite telling. He reiterated his message. His mission will be the poor. He said, I want a poor church, and I want the church to work for the poor. He acknowledged that the media had been telling the church's story over the last few weeks, going along with its sins and its glories, an interesting note, and also acknowledged that he said, you've been working very hard, haven't you? Which drew quite a laugh, a very unusual little anecdote, little joke, if you will, from the Pope. And then he went on to tell us the story of how he chose the name Francis. He said, during the conclave, and I'll paraphrase him, when it was getting quite dangerous or risky for me, he said he was sitting next to the Archbishop of Sao Paulo, Brazil, who's a close friend. And when he did get the 2/3 majority vote, the Archbishop reached over, hugged him and kissed him and said in his ear, don't forget the poor. And Pope Francis at that time said to himself, that name Francis came into his heart. He said others made lots of suggestions about what he should be called, including Adrian, for a former Pope Adrian, because Pope Adrian was the great reformer. And he said it with such humor, everybody laughed, and it was clear that he knows that there are many expectations inside and outside the church for this Pope to reform.
Now, we should point out, Susan, that during his audience with the world's media, he did veer away from the script from time to time, gave us a bit more of an intimate, picture of the man. What struck you about the personal side of Pope Francis?
This is such a different Pope from Pope Benedict. People are saying that he approaches the charisma of Pope John Paul II, perhaps even more. He has a very open face. He's very easy going off the script and often does with his anecdotes and jokes. He's a very accessible Pope, and I think in that conclave, those cardinals were looking probably at part of that and saying that this man will be able to charm in some ways his followers. And I've heard that throughout Rome in the last few days here, that an average person on the street is saying that he seems to have warmth, he seems to be approachable, much different from the really cerebral and intellectual sense of Pope Benedict. So it'll be very interesting here tomorrow when he gives his first sort of public audience or audience here at St. Peter's Square. From the Angelus window. He'll be talking directly to the people, and it'll be interesting to see whether that kind of sense is captured by the crowd.
And we will cover that first Angelus tomorrow morning here on CBC News Network. Susan, thank you for this.